Have you ever wondered why you feel so tired, even when you haven't moved all day? Not the kind of tired that sleep cures, but a deeper weariness, a kind of invisible exhaustion that wraps around your soul like fog. You smile, you show up, you even manage to stay productive, but inside, something is fraying, something you can't quite name. You're not just tired of tasks. You're tired of holding everything together, tired of pretending to be fine, tired of swimming against something that won't stop pushing back. It's subtle, quiet, but constant. You're tired of trying to fix things that don't want to be fixed, tired of holding on to people who keep slipping away, tired of forcing emotions, conversations, decisions, moments that just don't want to happen. And yet, you keep pushing, because somewhere along the way, you were told, if you just try hard enough, life will bend. So you force, you overthink, you plan every detail, you double down when things go wrong, and you begin to drown, not in failure, but in resistance. What if the exhaustion you feel isn't from doing too much, but from trying too hard? What if your suffering isn't coming from what's happening, but from your refusal to let it happen? Alan Watts called this the tragedy of control. A mind that tries to manage the river instead of learning to float. This isn't passivity. It's clarity. It's the ancient Taoist wisdom of Wu Wei, effortless action. And in the next part, you'll begin to understand why the more you force, the more you lose, and how the first true power is in learning to let go, because you weren't meant to hold the whole world up, only yourself. You've been trained to believe that letting go is weakness, that surrender is for those who failed. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if holding on is what's breaking you? What if the energy you're using to control life is the very thing pulling you further away from peace? There is a silent suffering that happens when you're constantly forcing yourself to be okay, forcing outcomes, forcing connections that don't feel right, forcing joy when what you really feel is hollow. And beneath all that effort is fear. Fear that if you stop pushing, everything will fall apart. Fear that if you stop trying, you'll be forgotten. Fear that your worth is tied to your usefulness, your productivity, your constant availability. But Taoist wisdom whispers something different. It says, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Let that sink in. The tree doesn't rush its bloom. The river doesn't force its path. The moon does not beg to be seen. And yet, everything unfolds. Alan Watts translated this ancient idea as Wu Wei, action without force. It's not laziness. It's alignment. It means acting with the current, not against it. Moving when life moves. Waiting when life pauses. Allowing when things must fall away. It's not a retreat from responsibility. It's the highest form of responsibility. Choosing to stop playing God with things you cannot control. You are not here to carry every burden. You are not here to manage everyone's emotions. You are not here to force happiness into places it no longer lives. You are here to respond to life, not wage war against it. And in the next part, you'll begin to understand where this war began, why our modern world is addicted to effort, and how we were conditioned to believe that stillness is failure. We'll go to the root, and from there, we'll start to unlearn what broke you. From the moment you were born, you were placed on a track. Be good, be smart, be faster, do more, win. We call it life, but really, it's a system. A system that taught you how to chase, not how to be. How to succeed, but not how to rest. How to force, but not how to feel. You were taught that if you stop, you fall behind. that slowing down is laziness, that relaxing is a sin against productivity. And somewhere along the way, you began to confuse exhaustion with purpose, anxiety with ambition, and burnout with being on track. Alan Watts saw it clearly. He called it the Western disease. A civilization obsessed with control. A world where every second must be optimized. Where even stillness must be scheduled. You wake up and immediately rush into thoughts. What do I need to fix today? What have I not done? Who do I need to impress? But Taoism and Zen offer a different path. A rebellious one. They say, stop measuring your life by how much you do. Start noticing how you feel while doing it. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Most of your suffering isn't from your circumstances. It's from your resistance to them. It's not the failed relationship. It's the clinging to what you wish it had been. It's not the uncertain future. It's your obsession with controlling it. It's not the silence from others. It's the noise in your mind trying to fill it. You don't need another plan. You don't need more goals. You need less war inside your body. Less tightening every time life doesn't follow your script. And the first act of healing? Admitting that you've been forcing everything. In the next part, we go deeper into Wu Wei and why letting go isn't passive. It's powerful, it's precise, and it changes everything. There's a myth we've all swallowed. That power is loud. That strength is control. That success comes from fighting, grinding, pushing. But Taoism offers a quiet revolution. It says, stop pushing. Start listening. Stop trying to shape the world. Let the world shape you. This is Wu Wei. Not laziness. Not passivity. But aligned action. Effortless flow. Imagine a leaf floating down a river. It doesn't try. It doesn't plan. But it moves exactly where it needs to go. Now imagine a person splashing, kicking, fighting that same current. They struggle for control, but they go nowhere. We've been trained to be that person. Always fighting, always exhausted. Wu Wei is what happens when you stop that fight. It's the decision to stop forcing a conversation that doesn't want to happen. To stop chasing a dream that no longer feels like yours. To stop clinging to habits that exhaust you just to keep up. Alan Watts put it like this. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. That means, don't rush your healing. Don't force the insight. Let clarity emerge in stillness. Sometimes the most powerful decision you can make is to wait, to breathe, to not answer the message, to not explain yourself, to not react, because presence is more powerful than performance. And here's the magic. When you stop forcing, the right people remain, the right paths appear. The weight you thought was permanent begins to lift. But first, you must dare to pause, to be misunderstood, to let go of the identity that only knows how to strive. In the next part, we'll explore what happens when you truly stop, and why it's not the end. It's the beginning of clarity, of power, of peace. There's a moment. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't come with applause. It arrives in silence. A soft, sudden truth. You don't have to keep fighting. That moment is the turning point. When you stop answering every call. Stop explaining yourself to those who never listen. Stop performing for a world that never claps loud enough. Something deep inside exhales. And it whispers, let it go. Let go of the plans that drain you. Let go of the people who only show up when you're useful. Let go of the guilt, the shoulds, the need to prove. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Peace begins where permission ends. You don't need permission to rest. to walk away, to change your mind. The world won't hand you that freedom. You'll have to take it. Alan Watts called it the paradox of transformation. The more you try to change things, the more they stay the same. The moment you stop trying, they begin to shift. That's not philosophy. That's reality. Think of the friendship you let breathe. It deepened. Think of the goal you stopped forcing. It found you anyway. Think of the day you gave up, and something finally clicked. It's not magic. It's the Tao. When you stop forcing, your nervous system recalibrates. Your thoughts become clearer. Your heart speaks louder. And suddenly, life doesn't feel like a war. It feels like a dance again. This is not passivity. It's power. The kind of power that can only be found in stillness, in restraint, in release. And now comes the hardest part. Staying here. Not going back to the noise. Not running to fix. Not trying to fill the silence. In the next part, we'll face the challenge of holding the pause, of allowing discomfort to become your new compass. Because if you can stand still long enough, what you truly need will begin to move toward you. Most people don't quit because they're weak. They quit because stillness feels unbearable. We say we want peace, but the moment it arrives, we panic. We reach for the phone. We refresh the feed. We run back into the chaos. Why? Because stillness reveals everything you've been avoiding. The unresolved thoughts, the buried grief, the emptiness you filled with effort. When you stop forcing, the silence speaks. And not everyone is ready to listen. It asks, why are you afraid of doing nothing? Who are you without your ambition? What if you never become what they wanted you to be? Those questions haunt the ego, because the ego thrives in the chase. It feels alive when it's proving, climbing, hustling. But silence? Silence feels like death to the false self. Alan Watts said, muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. Let that sink in. You don't solve everything by doing more. Some things settle only when you stop touching them. This is the power of Wu Wei. Not doing nothing, but no longer doing what doesn't serve you. It's walking away without guilt. It's letting the dust settle instead of sweeping harder. It's trusting that what's meant to stay will stay, without begging, chasing, or fixing. But here's the catch. The world will try to pull you back in. It will call you lazy, selfish, irresponsible. They don't mean harm. They're just afraid, because your stillness threatens their noise. You've stopped playing the game, and they don't know what to do with that. So stay here, even if your hands shake, even if it feels like everything is falling apart. Because sometimes, falling apart is just the beginning of falling into place. And in the next part, we'll explore what begins to emerge when you stop fixing and start feeling, when you finally give yourself permission to be human again, to breathe again, to come home. At first, silence feels heavy, but if you stay long enough, it becomes sacred. There comes a moment, after the panic, after the boredom, after the urge to prove, to explain, to fix, when something shifts. You stop needing the noise. You stop craving the validation. And instead of reaching outward, you begin to turn inward. It starts quietly. You notice how the air feels when you breathe. You feel the weight leave your shoulders. You sense a gentleness inside you that's been buried for years. For the first time in a long time, you're not chasing peace. You're living it. This is Wu Wei. This is what happens when you stop swimming against the river and let it carry you. Alan Watts once said, "You are a function of what the whole universe is doing." In the same way that a wave is a function of the ocean, you don't have to force the wave. You are the wave. The more you relax, the more you remember. Life was never meant to be a war. It was meant to be a dance, a song, a breath. But the world taught you to clench your fists, to fight, to outperform. And now your body doesn't remember how to rest. Your nervous system doesn't remember how to feel safe. Your soul doesn't remember how to just be. This isn't your fault. It's the trauma of a culture that forgot what being human means. But now, you remember. You remember the child who used to sing for no reason. The teenager who got lost in a sunset. The version of you that didn't measure their worth in productivity. And that memory? That's your return. In the next part, we'll talk about what happens when you stop forcing life to be different and let it reveal what it always wanted to show you. You don't have to build your life. You just have to stop running from it. There's a strange, almost mystical thing that happens when you stop trying to fix everything. The chaos doesn't vanish, but it stops echoing so loudly inside you. You begin to see, not with panic, but with presence. A problem appears, and instead of rushing to solve it, you just observe. A person leaves, and instead of begging them to stay, you bless their path and let them go. A door closes, and you finally notice the window that was open the whole time. This is not laziness. This is wisdom. It's the difference between control and cooperation, between force and flow. You've spent years demanding life look a certain way. You had blueprints, plans, timelines, and when they didn't work out, you blamed yourself. But what if life was never failing you? What if it was redirecting you, not away from your path, but back to it? When you stop forcing, you see the signs you once missed. You feel the nudges that used to scare you. You begin to trust the unfolding. Alan Watts said, "Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone." And maybe you've been shaking the jar for far too long, trying to heal too quickly, trying to love perfectly, trying to figure everything out before you've even lived it. But now you're watching the water settle. You're letting the truth rise without needing to grab it. You're learning that life reveals what matters only when you stop demanding it perform. And in that stillness, the real answers come. Not because you forced them, but because you finally made space to receive them. You were taught that stillness is failure, that rest is weakness, that if you're not constantly proving yourself, you're falling behind. So you became addicted to the chase, to the doing, to the constant movement that gave your anxiety somewhere to hide. But something inside you knew. This pace was never sustainable. You've burned out, quietly, smiling on the outside, crumbling when no one was watching. You said, "I'm fine," when your soul was screaming for oxygen. And in all that noise, you missed the message life was trying to send you. You are allowed to stop. Not after you earn it. Not when everyone else is okay. Not when everything is perfect. Now, because rest is not the reward. It is the requirement for remembering who you are. In Taoism, there is no such thing as constant growth. Even the strongest tree must rest in winter. Even the sun takes breaks behind clouds. Even the ocean has tides. Alan Watts reminded us, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You don't need to achieve your value. You only need to allow it. And when you stop being available to everything, you realize what you've actually been craving all along. Not more accomplishments, not more approval, but the sacred feeling of being home, inside your own body, inside your own rhythm, inside a life that doesn't exhaust you just to exist. In the next part, we'll talk about the quiet power of choosing peace, even when the world calls it laziness. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is nothing at all. You've spent a lifetime trying to be enough. Enough for your parents. Enough for society. Enough for the voices in your head that said, keep going or you'll be forgotten. But what if the most radical act of your life is to pause? Not because you're lazy, not because you've given up, but because you're finally awake. Awake to the lie that your worth was ever tied to your productivity. Awake to the truth that you are allowed to breathe before you break. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. Just stop. Because silence is not empty. It's full of answers. When you do nothing, something begins to shift. People say they want peace, but what they often want is your compliance. Your silence when they cross a line. Your attention when they are bored. Your reaction when they feel small. And the moment you stop giving it, they panic. Because your peace is no longer a gift. It's a mirror. One that reflects everything they've avoided in themselves. You'll notice it first in their confusion. They'll say, you've changed. They'll say, you're distant. But what they mean is, you're no longer easy to manipulate. That's what peace does. It disturbs those who rely on your chaos. It unnerves those who depended on your wounds to feel needed. When you stop being available, you stop being predictable. And that's terrifying. For people who built their identity around your accessibility, you'll lose people. Some will fade. Some will lash out. But let them go. Because every step away from their expectations is a step toward your truth. Alan Watts said, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You're not here to be defined by anyone. You are not your past reactions. You are not your conditioned people-pleasing. You are not the puppet they once controlled with guilt. You are becoming. And becoming will always offend those who were attached to the old version of you. So take the silence they give you. Take the misunderstandings. Take the accusations. And use them as fuel. Because nothing is more powerful than a person who finally realizes they don't owe their peace to anyone. In the next part, we'll look at what it means to live this way long term. When your life is no longer about who you serve, but about what serves your wholeness. At first, it feels like loss. You lose the people who called you too much when you finally spoke your truth. You lose the relationships that only survived when you stayed small. You lose the roles, the fixer, the savior, the always there one, that made you feel valuable. And it hurts. It always hurts. When you begin to come home to yourself. But as the noise dies down, as the emptiness settles, something else begins to rise. Clarity. Clarity about who you are when no one's pulling at you. Clarity about what you value. Not because someone told you to, but because you finally had the silence to feel it for yourself. And in that clarity, you find something else. Peace. A peace that doesn't come from approval. A peace that doesn't require applause. A peace that simply is. Because when you stop being available to the world's demands, you become available to your own soul. And that's when everything changes. You start saying no without guilt. You rest without explaining. You walk away without looking back. You no longer fear being misunderstood. Because the price of pretending was too high. You no longer chase connection. Because the connection you craved is finally happening within. This is not loneliness. This is sovereignty. This is where you remember that being unavailable doesn't mean you've hardened. It means you've healed. And now, you don't shrink to keep anyone comfortable. You don't perform to stay relevant. You don't give to be loved. You give from love. You speak from center. You walk from power. This is Wu Wei. Not passive, not cold, but fully alive in your own rhythm. And maybe for the first time in your life, you realize you were never broken. You were just exhausted from trying to be everything to everyone. You don't owe anyone your accessibility. You don't owe the world your availability. You only owe yourself the truth. So ask yourself now, if you finally stopped being what they expected, who would you become? Because when you stop being available, you don't lose them. You find you. Thank you for taking this journey. The next one begins when you're ready to choose your peace over your patterns.